I'm starting off with a vanilla chart here on XBT USD on BitMEX because I've just moved, if you've been following my log, I've just moved my stack from Bitfinex over to BitMEX. As those of you who've been following me will know, I was in several shorts to try and take it right down even below this chart shows, because it was looking extremely bearish, and I really think it would have gone there, but Bitfinex, as has shown for most of the year, really doesn't want it to go down there, and so they've been printing tether at different times, and we've seen, for example, let's have a look. You can pretty much see that in the middle of the chart here, the effects of some things like the maintenances, and I think we're going to see something a bit similar to this today, possibly, as we see what's been going on this year is we've moved from the Bitfinex era to the Bitfinex and BitMEX era, and the beginning of exchange wars. And so for those of you who remember that when BitMEX had their maintenance, Bitfinex timed it to the second, their pump, and completely wrecked everybody on BitMEX. Well, apparently Bitfinex is now having their maintenance, and I'm kind of anticipating that BitMEX is going to return the favor. So, but Bitfinex has been a little bit cagey here, a little bit clever here. They didn't announce the time. They just said it's going to be sometime basically today within a certain period, and they're going to announce it 30 minutes beforehand. But that is still long enough for people to get their positions ready. And as soon as that 30 minutes runs out, bang, there could be some very dramatic movements in the market like this. So what I think people on Bitfinex have done, and let's open up a Bitfinex chart here, which I've already done, is that they have already been closing out their shorts. Okay, so just look at these shorts, which were very, very low at this point, and then suddenly, oh, it starts to look a bit bearish, doesn't it? And suddenly all the FOMO short is right at the end, and then they make the announcement right here, and oh my God, let's get out of our short, which is exactly what I've been doing last night. And I'm getting out of Bitfinex as well, because there's a hell of a lot of weird, dodgy stuff going on with Bitfinex right now. For those of you who've been following it, you will probably know that they removed all their money from Noble Bank. We don't yet know where they moved their money to. It's not going to be exactly easy to get good banking for them. I've heard rumors that it might be ING, a Dutch bank, but so they've had some banking issues, and there's also a Reddit thread where people are having a lot of problems withdrawing fiat from them. So there's an awful lot of FUD and uncertainties in the market right now. And now they pull off at this lovely timing, just as it was going down and looked to be going down, and everybody was starting to short. They pull out the maintenance, and immediately we see pump as the shorts close and cover. So I'm rather glad that I got out my shorts when I did in profit and went in untethered, because I basically tethered, I don't know, somewhere up here. Basically, I made a nice bit of money on the way down, by tethering, and now I untethered it into BTC to move that over to BitMEX, and done well there. So let's now go to BitMEX, and basically I want to just show you some basics in charting, because I'm talking about, some of you have been following, I've been talking about maybe doing some basic lessons. Well, actually not so basic, they're going to get quite in depth after a while. But the first one will be on basically horizontal support and resistance. So I'm going to basically build up a chart. Here's a vanilla chart, it's a blank chart, and let's start doing it. So over here on TradingView, and you should always have a professional, or at least, you know, a professional Pro Plus or Premium or something like that on TradingView, because it's your tool of the trade and it's what you need. We have both horizontal line, trend line, and horizontal ray. I quite like using sometimes the horizontal ray when I'm looking at support and resistance. And if we turn on magnet mode, sometimes it's a little bit annoying, but it does help us to kind of put in the key lines quite easily. And so also I want you, when we're doing this on the very basics of the support and resistance, have a look at these volume bars as well, because basically wherever these high volume spikes are, that's probably going to be a key support and resistance. So yeah, I mean, we can put in some of the obvious ones like the lows, and you know, you can see the big pump. You can place that there. So you can start sticking it, and look at that. See how this pump over here affects that over here. That's why it's quite useful to be putting in these. Of course, we have our beautiful double lightsaber. Thank you, Darth Maul. And, or did I mean Arthur? And okay, put in a few of those. So basically I'm looking at these high volume candles and of course the tops. Yeah, you see that's how this one basically went to the same one as that, so we can more or less use, in fact I'll get rid of the old one because it's pretty much the same one. And of course we have our double top, but we also have this one which could be quite significant for us, I think. Look at that green candle there, and of course our top. I hope you can all hear me. One of the reasons I haven't done any videos yet is because the sound quality, apologies for sound quality, I'm just using my laptop's microphone, and I probably will need to buy a proper mic, and I need to find out where I can get one on this island that I'm living on. So yeah, hopefully once I get a microphone, then I can do some proper videos. Okay, so that's getting a few of these on. The obvious ones are going on here, of course. Just putting in our highs and lows. Swing high, swing low. Which is going to be important for some of the other horizontal lines I'm going to put on. Like my voodoo lines. Now look at that. Pretty much the same one, more or less. And of course we have this low over here, which I suspect, let's turn that into a horizontal. Oops. Yeah, right in that. Look at that. See that? Yeah. That's why these horizontals are so important. These wicks over here basically put a floor in the price over here. And this, I mean, that same principle, I could go right back And sometimes on some of my charts, I've got horizontals from months and months ago, or even almost the beginning of the year or last year. So they're very important. And look at this one. Let's have a look at that. Same thing. In fact, I'm just curious. Okay, probably a very old one, that one. But you'll soon see when we do the diagonals what's actually happening here. But basically, when you're constructing your chart, one of the very first things you should do is what I'm doing here, just putting on your basic horizontal support and resistance. In fact, look at that. Yeah. In fact, you can even see it from over there. More or less. Okay, so that's most of them. Actually, let me put that back here because that's more relevant for right now. That's our key resistance, which we want to get past, of course, this double top here, which was basically why I tethered with this double top. Always in BTC, you know, everybody looks on BTC for head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, cup and handle. I have no idea why. They so rarely happen and work out on BTC. The ones you need to look for are double bottom, double top. These are the main ones you've got to look for. Yes, there can be a risk that double bottom, double top turns out to be an ascending triangle or descending triangle. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter, because even if it was, it's still going to turn around and go down before it goes back up again, and so on. So even if this is the beginning of an ascending triangle, which we'll look at later, fine, it's still going to go down. There's still money to be made there. So always look out for double top, double bottom, and trade it. For example, this one. And it can happen on small time frames and still produce massive changes in price. So a lot of people always just look at the 4-hour chart and so on. You can't with BTC. You just can't. It's good to look at the dailies and the 4 hours, but you have to use every single time frame, because a lot of the big changes you're only going to get to see on the lower time frames. So, for example, this one, you wouldn't see that otherwise. Okay, now that's probably, well, yeah, there's a few others in here maybe. Let's zoom in a little bit here and get a bit more recent, because some of these are going to be relevant, I think. Just get in. Oops. Okay. So this is our basic support and resistance, which is what I wanted to teach in my first lesson anyway. Just your basic horizontals. I mean, I'm going to assume, of course, yeah, a lot of you are going to be very experienced and advanced traders, better than me. But we do on our channel have a lot of very new traders. And, you know, I'm seeing all these posts. What's BTC going to do? Is it going to move? Is it going to dump? Well, our ethos of our channel is to teach you TA, so that you don't have to ask these questions, so you can know for yourself and trade profitably, which is the best way. Okay, so that's, you know, our key sort of prices, and you can see the key range here. We've got a range high now, more or less. This is the range high area. And if you were just range trading, you know, somebody made a very good comment about a good strategy for range trading, that basically selling or shorting in this area and buying anywhere down here would do you quite well as a simple range trade. But I think as we're reaching the apex, I'm not sure it's going to stay in range all that much longer. I just don't think it can that much longer. It's going to squeeze out every last drop of it. And what do I mean by the apex? Now we've done these basic horizontals. Let's apply some diagonals, which is what I would normally do on a chart. Diagonals, there's a big debate about horizontals and diagonals. Those who play horizontals swear that horizontals are where it's at. You don't need anything else. Horizontals are the key things. I understand that because they're making a lot of money with that technique. There are others who more prefer diagonals, and there's some who play both. I use both, but I tend to find it's actually the diagonals which are going to be more profitable. That the bigger moves are coming from diagonals. The smaller moves, if you're a scalper, a day trader, intraday trader, horizontals. But for swing trading, the big moves, diagonals. So I think this peak is a little bit overdone now, personally. I think we've gone well past that. We've all been looking at this. Is it a wedge? Is it a descending triangle? Yeah, there's a lot of things it could be. I don't think you really have to know. It might sound funny, but I don't think we really have to know. We just have to be able to trade it and trade the pullbacks. That's probably the safest way of doing it. But there you can see what I mean by we're hitting the apex. This is the apex. Okay, and we're more or less right in there. There's so many horizontal lines, it's hard to see, but basically up until around this time here, which is, yeah, coming up literally in the 10 days that we're in. And usually moves don't occur in the exact apex. They tend to just occur in the last part of it, the last 10%, even 30% of the apex. So we are absolutely due for a big explosive move. The kind of move which, you know, we've all got a bit bored with these tiny little moves that BTC is doing. Well, that's not going to be happening all that much longer. We're going to start to see 1K candles, 2K candles. We're going to see massive, big changes coming up. And that's kind of for sure. Let's zoom in a bit so we can get the bottom of this as well. I hope you're all following me and it's okay for you. Here we're seeing roughly. I tend to use wicks. By the way, there's another big debate. Do we use wicks or do we use body candles? Well, everybody's got their own answer on that. I understand that. But for me, I use wicks. And I fail to believe that algos are using anything but wicks. Why? Candle bodies are dependent on time frame. The candle open and close on a daily is different to the open close on the 6 hour, on the 12 hour, the 4 hour, the 1 hour. They're all different. So which ones are they supposed to be using? An algo is not going to think like that. I don't think so. It's going to use the high, it's going to use the low. That's it. So I use wicks. So generally speaking, here we got our apex that we're in now. Getting very close. The absolute end of this apex is the 24th in 20 days time. It shouldn't take that long to get to it. We're in the last stages now for sure. Let's a little zoom in a bit. as most of you know, I have been leaning on the bearish side for the breakdown of this. I think it is more, personally, I think it should be, normally this would normally be a descending triangle. But it has kind of late been turning more and more into my least favorite of all chart patterns, the symmetrical triangle. Very clear here. That here is a symmetrical triangle. And of course, a symmetrical triangle, really, it doesn't have much bias. You don't really know which way it's going to go. Okay, here's our symmetrical triangle. Why do I hate symmetrical triangles? With BTC, with crypto, it might be different in other markets, but with crypto, what it tends to do is it breaks out one direction before massively flying back up to the other direction in a huge double lightsaber. So you could easily see a breakout when it does happen. Say, for example, I'm going to use an Elliott wave here, but not. I don't saying this is an actual Elliott wave. I'm just saying it's going to do something crazy, like either bang and a huge candle up there, bang straight back down, almost within the day or two, to even below here, or vice versa. And then you still, and it'll probably come back in, and you won't be left knowing where the hell it's going to go. That's why I don't like symmetrical triangles. It frequently does this. It tends to go to the Bollinger Bands on either side of the Bollinger, on the upper and the lower after it. And with such a massive pattern as this, it could easily be doing that on the Bollinger Band for the free day. And okay, all the Bollinger Bands are a little bit squeezed at the moment, to say the least. But that would still create some very dramatic price action, which of course could be very, very profitable if you manage to get it right. And so one of the ways to get that would be, and this is a risky trading thing, but it's one way to trade them, is, let's put some trade examples in. What I was doing, of course, was I was trying to short from here down to about here. Okay, so my basically shorting was something like, I'm just doing it approximately, okay, but I was going to take it down to there. Okay. Ooh. Like it could easily go down here, and quite frankly, as many people have said, if it really breaks 5.6, 5.4, 4, 3, 1, it could go anywhere. It could really, I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately, but if it ever fully finally breaks this and it turns into resistance, then it's going to be months and months and months of going down in a long drawn out bear market, which is what we saw in the past. Okay, which is why it's quite a profitable trade for a shorting. But there's another way of doing this, which is to put a stop market below the triangle with maybe the stop, and we talk about stop areas. If you put a stop here, you're going to die. You probably need to put your stop somewhere more like that on the other side and target right down here somewhere. Okay, that's a potential, and you could hold that and keep following it down as it keeps going down and down and down. So it could easily, like I said, easily could do. If that properly breaks, it's Armageddon time. Now, one doesn't have to just play one position. On BitMEX, you've got futures. So you've got 3 stabs, basically, at a trade. You can put one on perpetual, one on, was it December now? And the quarterly. So you could do up to 3. So what you could also, at the same time, do is place a stop market above the line and expect a similarly high target, or quite frankly, again, further and higher than that, but at least the target 1 of around this area. And again, put your stop on the other side so that you play the breakout on both of them. I quite like to do those kind of strategies, which is to say, I don't know which way it's going to go, but I'm going to try and make money on both of them. Okay. Now you could, there's options about where exactly you put your stop. I'll come to that later. So, but that's one way to play the larger triangle. But it was also what I was thinking about doing for maintenance today. Because if you look at this nasty candle, double-sided lightsaber over here, if you were playing this candle, and it's a nightmare to play these candles, that's exactly what you would probably do, is you would do a very tight stop. You set your target based on support and resistance, fairly obvious one here. Those are your 2. You're in here, you put your target up there and here, on 2 of them, on perpetual and on future. You put a tight stop on both of them. Let one get stopped out, let the other one get hit. You would probably only get 1/2 of the lightsaber if you're doing that. The other one's going to get stopped out, but the profit on the one that hits makes up for it. If you were able to be completely present at your computer the whole time, you could attempt to do them both, but be honest, this is BitMEX we're talking about, and you know it's going to overload. So you would need to put it all in place beforehand. And that's going to happen the same with the maintenance today. You can expect that BitMEX is going to overload massively today. And Binance as well. So whenever that comes out, which is getting sooner and sooner, I'm not sure if they've announced the time yet, but it's, it could be any time from about, I can guess about an hour, 2 hours time. It could be any time after that. Okay, so that's a little idea of what you can do and some horizontal resistances. Now, what I add to this is voodoo lines. But I got some other diagonals to put in here as well, which I think will make this a little bit clearer about what's been going on recently. Because basically everything that we just had is due to diagonal lines. Let me just get this quite clear. That caused the pump, this diagonal breaking. You can probably see, yeah, retest of a breakout on the diagonal, bang, pump. That's what I'm talking about with diagonals. Diagonals make massive moves, particularly if you can catch it on the retest. I sometimes like to catch it on the first breakout, on the pullback, and then on that, if you're scalping it like crazy. But that is the safer trade there, is to get the retest And if it succeeds on a retest, which it doesn't always, then play it and bang, off you go. So in my personal opinion, diagonals rule. And there's been quite a lot of diagonals here as well. There was, basically this was a kind of a channel. If you can see that, it's a kind of a channel. I think Finex was a bit clearer on that. Let me just zoom that a bit. Yeah, not very clear, but there was something like some kind of wedge, expanding, descending wedge, which basically broke out. Yeah, let's call it something like this, okay? And when you want to know the strength of a breakout, this one, price range. So the height of the structure, take that to there. Oh, look at that. Not bad. Pretty accurate. It wicked above it, but the close is around here, right at one of these support and resistances. Okay, so, and that happens for most of the different chart formations. You can, there's a whole website in this experience. You should always know about chart patterns and the size of the move you can expect on a breakout of the chart pattern. And that's the way I tend to do it. I use this price range and just place it on. And then look for support and resistances in that area, which you can see there's one here, and we had our main one from here. And then you would place your targets in this on these lines. Okay, so of course we also had this. And again, exchange to exchange is going to be slight differences on these. I've already charted out Finex though, but we got saved by this trend line. This trend line basically has saved the day. It's bounced back, but we'll have new diagonals to play with. But this is our top actually. They're slightly different on MEX, aren't they? Yeah. Nice. Oh, there's a nice confluence here. It might be drawn there like a magnet. I could see that happening. Yeah, look at that nice three-way confluence. Confluence, if you don't know the word, which you should do by now, means you've got several things all in the same place, or several indicators all showing the same thing, and you're looking at that as an extra reinforcement. But that's an interesting area, to say the least. Combination of horizontal, the main diagonal, this mini diagonal. That would be an interesting place if this is an impulsive wave and on a 1, 2, well, this would be a certain target to look at. It's not saying this is going to be a line, but it's a potentiality. So when price comes back and it breaks out from this, wherever that might occur, it could go up again. But I think it's more likely to come back down and either retest this or retest this. So whenever you get a breakout, it's already actually it's not going to retest this one because it already retested this one. That's a good point. But it may need to retest some of these broken support and resistances. We'll come on to that. I'm sorry if it's all too basic. Like I said, I'm starting out from your ABCs, your very basics for people, before we go into ridiculous depth later on. And trust me, I am going to go into ridiculous depth on all of these topics. When I say ridiculous depth, I'll just show you, I'll give you an idea of the kind of topics that I'm going to be covering on this course. So just on the first lesson, which is horizontal support, I guess this is lesson 1. Let's count this as lesson 1 now. Horizontal support, but I'm going to be going on to fibs, pivots, order blocks, highs and lows, monthly, weekly, daily range, the historical, the psychological horizontal supports, wicking, liquidity pools and swing failure patterns, the order book, tensor charts, and so on. And that's just going to be part of the first lesson. And then there's many more lessons I've got coming up on moving averages, Bollinger Bands, and other bands, oscillators, order walls, oil games, volume analysis, multi-time frame, strategies, risk management, trade management, emotional management, trading rules, trading journal, trading record, etc. to be coming in the future. I am a little unconventional here in the use of the fib, but it always interests me to put a fib at the peak that we just had from that wave. And let's just see which, yeah, it looks to be basing it off this. Looks to be basing it off here to me. Yeah, I would go with that. That was the last touch on that support, which basically triggered off this move. And so we see it's already retraced back to the 382 classically, which is quite a bullish area. If it comes down to 0.5, which a lot of people say would be where the algos start kicking in, which would link up with this. This might be a nice area to scale into a long around this area, around what on BitMEX 6.5, yes, 6.520, 6.523 area might be nice. We also have the 618 fib at 6,500, the psychological support. So that would also be a nice area to maybe put another scale in. Though I must admit, I thought it was going to, initially I thought it might come down here, but that's why it's a good idea to look at confluence, to look at other things. Although actually that, yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, okay, that's right on the 6th. Yeah, the golden pocket, 6.65. It's not classically a fib, but for some reason, it quite often hits. So in the region between the 618 and the 65, that's where a lot of algos tend to go into action. So that at 6495, which would be a lovely wick through 6,500, might be an attractive algo target here. So one could be basically scaling into your position, maybe placing one order here, another one here, another one here. And the average is going to be around about this area if you were doing that. And you would be targeting, well, I've given you many different targets already that you could be looking at. this kind of area, right? Let's call it a conservative one around about here. I like to be conservative, to be honest, on these, because BTC, particularly recently, has always under-delivered when it's going up. Like that last one, we're only up to about 6,800 or so. Everybody was calling for 6,900, 7,000, and it failed to deliver. And that's what the bulls tend to do on Bitcoin all year round, is they're very bullish at the beginning. As soon as they get close to any kind of resistance, they crumble and short it. So stop, there's a theory that if it goes below 786, it's no longer bullish. So one could put the stop down here, below this wick. But they know that. So sometimes, they'll see that as a liquidity pool and they'll be hunting it. So if you wanted to be safer, you would put it below this or even lower. But you're still going to get a nice risk reward ratio. It's over 2. Depends, on your own. Obviously, you're going to do it tighter, you're going to get more leverage. Look at that ratio going up, depending on how tight you play. If you're going to try and play it on the 786, you can get almost up to a 5 risk reward ratio, and then you can get your leverage in because of the tight stop. So you could play that. So that's one way of doing that. But let me just add something else to this. Now I'm going to do some voodoo lines. I'm going to draw a line from that high to that low. I just want to be sure what those numbers are. Let me zoom in. I want to get those bang on. Okay. So over here we've got 6405.5 and it's around 6620, wasn't it? So incredibly brief 1 minute wick up to over 6,600. Yeah, 6620. Okay. Voodoo. So I put them invisible first because they're going to compile and it takes them a while to calculate. So we had a high of 6620, a low of 6. What was it again? 505. You don't need the lower ones, just want the higher extensions. May as well get a few of the higher extensions and get the full detail. And give me that. Okay. Let's just turn off everything else and have a look just at the voodoo lines. Oops, that can't be right. I put that in wrong. Yeah. So what was the low again? Oh, 6405, my mistake. Yeah, of course. 6405? No, 6428.5, 6424. Oh, that looks low in that. 6428, that looks lower. 6412.5, okay. 6412.5. That's the low. So I'm just going to that low around here and our high. Let's let it calculate. Now, this might be quite slow. I don't know if the stream is cutting out constantly or not. I apologize if it is. I'm at work and I'm using my mobile internet. And remember, I'm on an island. So if it's not cutting out, it's quite impressive. Okay, well that's it's still loading. Yeah, it's struggling my net with this. But anyway, one can more or less see that this fib hit, and yeah, it is loading. I think me doing a live stream and having about 50 different charts open on different windows on screen on desktops is probably overloading it a little bit. I'm not likely to be doing these during my working days in future. I'm going to have to be doing these at home. So yeah, while the internet catches up, you've got a choice. Some of you will be taking this as an opportunity to short the bounce. I understand that, but my feeling is that BitMEX will pump, and which is basically what we've already seen, was going to pump rather than dump. Why? BitMEX, the top 25 whales are mostly long. Finex had been mostly short. So if I was a MEX whale, I would want my longs to do well, and I'd want Finex's shorts to get wrecked. And of course, they're not going to get liquidated because Finex isn't like that, but they can get stopped out. The question, of course, is where would Finex be storing their stop losses, and that's always a question to ask. But you can imagine this. They may well have them above 6,900. And a fairly obvious kind of liquidity pool would be above that diagonal line. And they could easily just do a nice little fake out, take out the stops there, and then dump it right back down. That's what it likes to do. Well, we might have to give it an end here. My internet's struggling big time now. But I gave you a pretty good idea of what you can do, hopefully, and an idea of about basic horizontal lines, and a little bit on the diagonals as well. Yeah, here we go on my voodoo lines. I can get a bit of it here. From here, you can see some retrace targets. Yeah, I think it could easily be going into this area, just above 6,500. I believe Tensor Charts is showing that they are putting a wall on MEX somewhere around 6,530. Yeah, actually, that makes sense. Just look at that. I missed that. This is something you'll often see, by the way, so it's worth pointing this out. You see on here, oh, it's gone again. Okay, I'm going to give up at this point. Oh, here it is. It's coming back again. So here on the pump, just because of the way the minute chart works to some extent, but you see this little candle here, that is begging to be retested at 6,540. Yep. And oh, look at it, right bang on the voodoo line as well. Perfect. Yeah, that's the one to go for, 6,540. I'm tempted to put a long there myself. It always bounces off of this. It's like one of the most high percentage chances you're going to get. Whenever it comes back down, and it's almost got to it here, this is an area where it says bounce. Not always going to bounce that high, but it's going to bounce. So certainly a scalper would be very interested as soon as it hit that. And of course with the fib line there, it's extra support. Yeah, I'm fairly sure tensor charts, I've got it on another screen, but you wouldn't see it. On the same tab. I'm fairly sure we have that. And that's something else to do. You know, when we're making these horizontal lines and these diagonal lines, honestly, they don't mean much unless you also have some orders there. I know we can, you know, the order walls can often be removed, taken away, and so on. And that's true. But what we're looking for is confluence. And if you've got some kind of line, but it doesn't actually have orders there, you know, it's not that strong. Okay, so it's always a good idea to go check those lines that you've been putting on your chart and go see, look, is there anybody putting orders there? And here we go. This is MEX, XBT. Just waiting for it to load, so the internet's slow now. Yeah, the highest one is around in the 6,520 region, but we also see there's quite a lot at 6,540. See that more visually here. And yeah, just as I described, 6,540 to 6,530 has been a key area for buying any pullback. And yeah, they're going around just above that 6,510 to 6,520. Yeah, in this area. So, interesting, yeah, of course, 6,400 is obviously now the main range support. And so you can see that they're now targeting, yeah, they're targeting between here and these voodoo lines here, which are basically based on fibs. So they've put a wall here, and they've put a wall, oops, too high, here. So if you want to go long, basically this is where you're going to stick your stop, your limit orders, picking two up here, and look at that key here. So your stop could easily be just in this area. That's an option if you want to go long. Okay, I think that's probably all. That's pretty clear for you. Gives an idea of some of the things I'll be going into more detail on some later videos. and hopefully I can get some better internet, better microphone, get some quality in for the next ones. Okay, great. See you on the Mr. Waves channel, and do join my blog. See you later.